Let's talk about ethics and responsibilities as it comes to building your startup. Now, when you're building, you're going to be put into a lot of interesting, sometimes confusing, sometimes difficult situations, and you're going to have to make some judgment calls. You're going to have to make judgment calls on things that look really small but are in fact really big, and things that are very, very big and have a lot of different stakeholders where everything is conflicted. So, I wouldn't expect a particularly easy journey. It's not that every decision is going to be incredibly difficult, but it's just understanding and accepting that there's going to be a good amount of complexity and difficulty and weighing of options that you need to consider in order for you to act as effectively as you can. And again, there is no pure right or wrong, other than, of course, if you're just directly and intentionally breaking the law. That's never a good thing. But besides that, most things are judgment calls that you just have to see the impacts of near term, midterm, long term. So let's talk about a few of the key concepts that I keep in mind as I'm assessing and building and acting in that ethical and responsible way. First is transparency. If you're not willing to share information and share the good things, the bad things, and everything in between with the people that need to know, namely, of course, your team and co founders and investors and whatnot, you're probably making the bad decision. Now, it doesn't mean that as soon as something terrible happens or a situation comes up, you have to hit email, you have to go to your email and send an email to everybody in the company and cause a whole problem and do all these things. But it does mean you have to go, okay, if this situation or this circumstance has happened, who needs to know about this and when do they need to know about this? Is this something where it's a code red and I need to get on with my other co-founders immediately? Is this something where we need to let people know about the problem before we find a solution? Is this something where we need to find the solution because that's going to, of course, let us convey the problem and then of course provide support and reduce panic by having a solution, connected immediately? These are judgment calls. Some are legal, some are financial, some are customer related. It's a kind of a holistic caution on transparency, timeline, letting the right people know, etc. Next is fair practices. This is very basic, but a lot of people mess it up. Treat everybody equally and fairly. Your employees, your customers, your partners. It's very common sense to, treat people how, of course, you would expect to be treated in a given business relationship, which at a minimum means following the letter of the contract, the letter of the agreement, or the generally understood and agreed to kind of principles of the relationship, be it employer, employee, contractor, partner, customer, what have you. Because you don't have to be wrong for them to still not like you and not want to work with you or not trust you or 100 other things. So the best kind of caution and mindset here is, am I operating fairly? Do I feel that I can justify the actions, decisions, etc. that I've taken to date? And last is sustainability and impact. Now, your startup is always going to be in question as far as, are you building in a sustainable way, whether it's environmentally, socially, how you're building with, government regulations and what's going on in kind of the modern world today. And of course, all things impact. You're going to be hiring people. Your company is going to use resources. If you're building a hard tech product, you're going to be putting a physical good into the world. So there is a lot of benefit and a lot of consideration around what is the overall impact of your business, because it could just be that you're making a market more efficient. It could mean that you're changing the way an industry fundamentally functions. Both are fine. One is, of course, very, very interesting and might get some more investor interest, but of course, big claims require big proof. So when we are building internally, just a bit of caution and a little something to kind of take away, we subscribe to this mentality of be good, build good, which basically means, could I have my files leak, like the legal contracts, the employee agreements, the contracts with customers, etc., and not be overly embarrassed? Because of course you'd still be embarrassed, but would I be like ashamed? Like, oh my God, they're going to find out that I did this with this customer, that I clearly took advantage of this other one and asked for triple the equity that I deserve, that I've materially overpriced something. Would I be embarrassed? And the second is, would it be illegal? Is there something that they can defined. And if you realize that you're having those thoughts and those ideas, or someone that you've hired or brought on the team is bringing that energy, it's probably a good sign that you should be reevaluating how you want to build and how you want to, comport yourself as a startup founder in the day to day.